Whispers from the ancient soil. In the mist-shrouded valleys of southern China, where the relentless march of progress clashes with the unyielding grip of tradition, lies the village of Xinfa, a place where the old world refuses to die quietly. Once a serene hamlet of terraced rice fields and bamboo groves, Xinfa has transformed in recent decades, its landscape scarred by the skeletal frames of factories and the ceaseless hum of machinery. Towering smokestacks belch plumes into the sky, mingling with the ancient fog that rolls down from the hills, as if the spirits of the land are exhaling their discontent. Here, amid the cacophony of welding torches and conveyor belts, the villagers whisper of forgotten curses, of graves disturbed by bulldozers, and of vengeful souls that wander the night, seeking retribution for sins long buried. At the heart of this uneasy evolution stands the Li family estate, a sprawling compound that embodies the village's duality. Built upon land reclaimed from an old imperial cemetery, where centuries ago, jealous noblewomen and scorned concubines were interred in shallow pits, the estate gleams with modern opulence. Marble fountains, solar-powered lights, and imported cars parked under canopies of engineered shade. Yet, beneath the veneer of wealth, the ground pulses with a darker energy. Locals avoid the property after dusk, claiming to hear faint sobs carried on the wind from the nearby river, or to glimpse pale figures flitting between the orchard trees. The dead do not forgive the living who forget them, the elders mutter over cups of bitter tea in dimly lit tea houses. It is into this fraught world that we delve, where familial bonds fray under the weight of ambition and envy. Li Wenhai, the patriarch, rose from humble farmer to industrial magnate, his fortune forged in the fires of China's economic boom. But success came at a cost. A fractured household torn between his steadfast first wife, Chen Lan, and his alluring concubine, Li Meifang. Lan, with her roots deep in the village soil, represents the unyielding traditions of loyalty and sacrifice. Meifang, a city-bred temptress, embodies the seductive pull of modernity and desire. Their rivalry, simmering like a pot over coals, awakens forces far older and more malevolent than mere human jealousy. As the story unfolds, prepare to descend into a realm where the line between the living and the dead blurs, where every shadow conceals a secret, and where the price of betrayal is paid not in gold, but in eternal torment. The whispers from the ancient soil grow louder, drawing you into the Li family's nightmare, a tale of ghosts not just of the spectral kind, but of regrets that refuse to rest. In Xinfa, progress may illuminate the day, but the night belongs to the unforgiven. Part 1. Shadows of the family. In the rural outskirts of southern China, where vast rice paddies were slowly giving way to sprawling industrial parks, lay the village of Xinfa. This place straddled the line between tradition and modernity. Newly paved roads gleamed under neon lights from electronics factories, yet ancient wooden houses with curved tiled roofs still dotted the landscape, clinging to old customs like ghosts from the past. The Li family was one of the wealthiest in the village, thanks to Li Wenhai, a successful entrepreneur in his mid-50s. Tall and imposing, with a square face framed by a silver beard, he always dressed in imported suits from Shanghai, looking every bit the urban tycoon despite his rural roots. His first wife, Chen Lan, was a local woman, now 48 years old. Once the village beauty with porcelain skin and sparkling eyes like autumn lakes, she had built the family fortune alongside Wenhai from nothing, bearing him 2 daughters who were now married and living elsewhere. But their marriage was far from peaceful. 10 years ago, Wenhai had taken a concubine, Li Meifang, a vibrant young woman from Guangzhou, only 25 when she entered the household. Meifang was strikingly modern, with long ebony hair, subtle makeup, and form-fitting dresses that contrasted sharply with Lan's traditional Aodai-like garments. Wenhai doted on her, buying her a luxury car and building a separate villa within the family compound. The rivalry between the two women started with petty squabbles. As the first wife, Lan controlled the family finances and constantly curtailed Meifang's spending. "You're just the concubine. Don't get greedy," Lan would sneer when Meifang requested money for shopping. Meifang, clever and unyielding, whispered sweet persuasions into Wenhai's ear during late nights. "Darling, I only want harmony, but Sister Lan is so jealous," she'd murmur. Wenhai, weary of the arguments, often remained silent, allowing the women to vie for dominance. The grand Li estate sat at the village's edge, surrounded by orchards and a gentle river. By day, factory hums mixed with the scent of ripening rice and industrial smoke. At night, the village plunged into darkness, broken only by insect chirps and wind-rustling ancient trees. Lan often lay awake, staring from her window at Meifang's illuminated villa. "Why her? I've sacrificed everything for him," she'd mutter, clutching her jade wedding bracelet. One stormy evening, with Wenhai away on business in Beijing, Lan decided to act. She sneaked into Meifang's room, rifling through drawers until she found a love letter from an unknown man. "This is proof," Lan thought with a wicked grin, photocopying it and hiding the copy. But Meifang was no fool. She'd installed hidden cameras. The next morning at breakfast, she confronted Lan. "Sister, did you think I wouldn't notice? That letter was a fake. I set it as a trap." Lan paled but refused to back down. The silent war escalated from veiled insults to darker schemes. Village gossip swirled around the Li family. "The first wife and concubine are at each other's throats. Trouble's brewing," neighbors whispered. Wenhai returned, attempting mediation, but failed. Unbeknownst to him, Lan's resentment festered like a wound, and Meifang plotted her own revenge. The house grew heavy with shadows. Eerie footsteps echoed at midnight, mirrors fogged with unnatural images. At first, they blamed the weather, but a chill settled in, hinting at something supernatural lurking in the family's fractured bonds. As the days passed, Lan's paranoia deepened. She began hearing whispers in the wind, calling her name with a voice that sounded eerily like her deceased mother's. One night, alone in her chamber, she felt a cold breath on her neck, turning to see a fleeting shadow vanish into the wall. Shaken, she consulted an old village fortune-teller, who warned of ancestral spirits displeased with the household discord. Meifang, meanwhile, experienced her own unnerving encounters. Objects moving on their own, like a vase crashing without touch, spilling water that formed the shape of an accusing finger pointing at her. Wenhai dismissed these as superstitions, focusing on his business expansions. But the tension mounted. Lan, driven by jealousy, started collecting herbs from the black market, rumored to cause infertility. She slipped them into Meifang's tea one afternoon, watching with hidden glee as Meifang clutched her stomach in pain. The doctor called it food poisoning, but Meifang's eyes narrowed in suspicion. That night, as thunder roared, Meifang crept into Lan's room, leaving a cursed talisman under her pillow, a paper inscribed with ancient symbols meant to invoke nightmares. The next morning, Lan awoke screaming from visions of being buried alive, her body writhing in dirt while Meifang laughed from above. The household staff whispered of ghosts from the old graveyard that once occupied the land, where jealous wives had met untimely ends centuries ago. Wenhai, sensing the growing dread, hired a feng shui master to realign the home's energies, but the rituals only seemed to stir the shadows more. Candles flickered out during the ceremony, and a gust of wind scattered the incense, forming patterns that resembled twisted faces. Amid this, the village itself began to change. New factories brought migrant workers, but with them came stories of hauntings. Workers claiming to see spectral women wandering the fields at dusk, their cries echoing like lost souls. Lan wondered if these were omens tied to her feud. Meifang, feigning innocence, used the chaos to her advantage, convincing Wenhai to grant her more control over household affairs. "It's for our safety, darling. Sister Lan is unstable," she'd say. The climax of this part came during a family dinner under a blood-red moon. As they ate, a sudden blackout plunged the room into darkness. From the void, a woman's wail pierced the air. Not human, but guttural and filled with rage. When lights returned, Lan's chair was empty, and a trail of wet footprints led to the river. They found her drenched and delirious, babbling about hands pulling her into the water. Meifang smiled inwardly, knowing her planted suggestions had driven Lan to the brink. But as Lan recovered, her eyes burned with a new, unholy determination. The shadows in the house grew longer, and the river's murmur sounded like whispers of vengeance. Part 2. Silent Conspiracies. Time marched on and Shinfa village flourished. New highways linked it to major cities, drawing crowds of workers to the factories. The Li family rode this wave of prosperity, with Wenhai investing in an ecotourism project along the river, promising vast returns. "This will be our legacy," he announced at a family meal, flanked by Lan and Mei Fang, their glares like daggers across the table. Lan demanded oversight of the project, citing her experience. "As first wife, I must secure our daughter's future." But Mei Fang, now pregnant with a son confirmed by ultrasound, countered swiftly. "Husband, I'm young and savvy in modern business. Let Sister Lan rest her weary bones." Wenhai, swayed by his young wife's charm, appointed Mei Fang as deputy director. Lan seethed, feeling cast aside. That night, in the ancestral shrine, she burned incense and prayed fiercely. "Ancestors, rid me of this fox spirit," she hissed, her eyes gleaming madly. Lan's plots turned sinister. She sought out Old Wang, a grizzled shaman from a neighboring village, known for dark arts rooted in ancient folklore. "I need a charm to make her miscarry," Lan demanded, shoving a wad of cash into his hands. Wang nodded, crafting a crimson talisman etched with forbidden runes, instructing her to hide it under Mei Fang's pillow. Lan complied, slipping into the villa undetected. But Mei Fang discovered it, smirking. "Sister thinks I'm afraid of old wives' tales? This is the 21st century." She presented it to Wenhai, tears streaming. Enraged, he berated Lan. "You've gone too far. One more stunt, and you're out." Humiliated, Lan spread vicious rumors. Mei Fang was a former bar girl from Guangzhou, and the child wasn't Wenhai's. Whispers spread like wildfire, forcing Mei Fang into seclusion. Undeterred, she consulted a city lawyer, forging a will that bequeathed everything to her and the unborn child. She hired a private investigator to tail Lan, gathering evidence of her shaman visits. "If she wants war, she'll get it," Mei Fang vowed. The supernatural escalated. Mei Fang awoke to infant cries from the orchard, investigating to find only swirling mist and a shadowy figure retreating. The next day, Lan smiled knowingly at Mei Fang's pallor. "Perhaps your sins summon the ghosts," Lan taunted. Mei Fang suspected foul play but lacked proof. Wenhai ignored the anomalies: foul-smelling water from taps, family photos torn as if by claws. The feud peaked at Wenhai's birthday party in the villa. Lan laced Mei Fang's wine with a black market poison designed to induce miscarriage. Mei Fang doubled over in agony, rushed to the hospital where she barely saved the baby. Doctors said food poisoning. Mei Fang knew better. In retaliation, she sent anonymous threats to Lan, letters with photos of her shaman meetings, accompanied by a doll's head smeared in red ink, symbolizing death. Lan descended into terror, plagued by insomnia. She saw a white-robed woman outside her window, face obscured by hair, beckoning her. Village lore spoke of the land's history as an ancient burial ground for wronged concubines, their spirits rising to claim justice. Lan, fearing possession, doubled her efforts. She hired a thug to intimidate Mei Fang. But before the plan unfolded, tragedy struck. Lan tumbled down the stairs in the dead of night, her neck snapping on impact. Police ruled it accidental, but Mei Fang's enigmatic smile suggested otherwise. In the aftermath, investigations revealed scuff marks on the stairs as if pushed. Wenhai mourned, but Mei Fang whispered doubts. Perhaps her guilt drove her mad. The house felt emptier, yet heavier, with creaks and sighs that mimicked Lan's voice. Mei Fang moved into the main house, but sleep evaded her. One night, a handprint appeared on her mirror, fading only when she screamed. Old Wang, contacted secretly, warned her death was unjust. Her ghost hungers for revenge. The village buzzed with tales of apparitions near the river, women in white dragging victims into the depths. Workers at the Eco Project reported tools vanishing, replaced by bones unearthed from the soil. Wenhai, skeptical, pushed forward, but Mei Fang felt eyes watching her every move. She began carrying protective amulets, but the horrors intensified, blood seeping from walls, forming words like betrayer. In her dreams, Lan's decayed face loomed, promising eternal torment. As the pregnancy advanced, Mei Fang's belly swelled, but so did her fears. During an ultrasound, the screen flickered, showing not a baby but a skeletal form. The technician blamed glitches, but Mei Fang knew the truth. The ghost was infiltrating her very womb. She confronted Old Wang again, who revealed Lan had cursed her before dying. "If I fall, you'll follow into hell." Mei Fang, desperate, performed secret rituals, burning effigies of Lan to appease the spirit. But each night the house groaned like a living entity, walls pulsing with unseen veins. Wenhai finally noticed, hiring exorcists from Guangzhou. They chanted through the night, but one collapsed, foaming at the mouth, muttering of a vengeful yin energy too strong to banish. The family teetered on collapse. The eco-project stalled amid worker desertions. Mei Fang, alone in her room, felt kicks from her baby that felt like claws scratching from inside. The river outside roared unnaturally, as if calling her name. Part 3. The ghost returns after Lan's funeral. A lavish affair with her buried in the village cemetery, the Li household draped in mourning. Wenhai grieved deeply, while Mei Fang assumed full control, birthing a healthy son named Li Ming, symbol of brighter days. Wenhai lavished attention on them, burying the past, but shadows lingered, uncoiling like serpents. Mei Fang's nightmares began immediately. She dreamed of Lan, pallid and furious, hovering over the crib. Give it back. Awakening sweat-drenched, she'd hear lumbering footsteps in the corridors. Initially dismissed as postpartum anxiety, the phenomena worsened. Bathroom mirrors clouded, reflecting Lan's sneering visage. Tap water ran crimson, reeking of decay. Wenhai heard nocturnal sobs, but attributed them to wind. Seeking answers, Mei Fang visited old Wang. Trembling, he intoned, Lan's death was wrongful. Her unrestful soul clings to you. Mei Fang scoffed outwardly, but installed surveillance everywhere, employing guards. Yet spirits mocked technology. One moonless night, with Wenhai absent, lights extinguished abruptly. A cackle echoed, icy fingers throttling Mei Fang's throat. Dawn revealed bruises like necrotic marks. Village rumors exploded. Lan's ghost demanded justice. Locals shunned the estate, recounting sightings of a spectral woman wailing by the river. Mei Fang hired a detective, uncovering Lan's hidden diary, chronicling 3 miscarriages from marital stress and a deathbed curse. If I die, you won't live in peace. Entries detailed Lan's torment, fueling Mei Fang's guilt. The pinnacle arrived on the Ghost Festival, mid-July lunar month. Mei Fang hosted a soul-appeasing ceremony, burning offerings. Midway, a tempest arose, toppling altars. Lan's apparition materialized, distorted, hair wild, lunging with claws. You murdered me. Pay with your life. Terrified, Mei Fang confessed, pushing Lan down the stairs in a rage-fueled blackout. Wenhai, returning unexpectedly, witnessed the horror, collapsing in shock. The ghost persisted, possessing young Ming, causing feverish convulsions and unnatural babbling in Lan's voice. Mei Fang begged old Wang for an exorcism. He invoked ancient rites, incinerating talismans and chanting sutras. But Lan's spirit resisted, recounting her agonies, abandonment, isolation, unjust demise. Mei Fang knelt, vowing to divide assets with Lan's daughters and honor her grave lavishly. As the ritual peaked, the house shook violently. Windows shattered, winds howling like banshees. Lan's form twisted in agony, revealing deeper horrors. She hadn't died instantly from the fall, but lingered in pain, cursing Mei Fang with her last breath. Shadows peeled from walls, forming tendrils that ensnared Mei Fang, dragging her toward a yawning void. Wenhai intervened, pleading for mercy, offering his own life. The spirit wavered, then dissipated in a burst of ethereal light, leaving only scorched marks on the floor. But peace was fragile. Ming recovered, but bore a birthmark resembling Lan's jade bracelet. Mei Fang suffered recurring visions, Lan watching from corners, her eyes hollow pits. The river's waters turned murky, fishermen pulling up bones etched with curses. Village elders spoke of a cycle unbroken, warning that blood feuds awakened ancient demons buried in the soil. Wenhai, haunted by guilt, abandoned the eco-project, donating land for a temple to pacify spirits. Yet nights brought dread, whispers in the nursery, Ming giggling at unseen playmates. Mei Fang locked herself away, poring over occult texts, fearing Lan's return on the next festival. The house, once grand, felt like a tomb, its walls echoing with unresolved screams. Part 4, End of the Grudge. Post-exorcism, Lan's ghost quieted. Mei Fang reformed, humbly sharing management with Lan's daughters. Wenhai repented, prioritizing family. Xinfa progressed, but the Li tale became legend, cautioning against envy and strife. Yet on full moons, Mei Fang heard murmurs in the breeze. Remember. She knew the past's darkness endured, a perpetual vigil. To extend the narrative, let's delve deeper into the aftermath. Years passed, and Li Ming grew into a curious boy, oblivious to the horrors. But strange occurrences persisted subtly, toys rearranging themselves, forming patterns from Lan's diary symbols. Mei Fang, now paranoid, consulted psychics nationwide, each confirming residual energy, a fragment of Lan's soul anchored by unfinished business. Wen Hai, aging rapidly, suffered heart issues, blaming stress from the hauntings. Doctors prescribed rest, but nights brought visitations. Lan appearing in dreams, not vengeful but sorrowful, begging forgiveness for her own sins. He awoke weeping, confiding in Mei Fang, who shared her burdens. Together, they unearthed family secrets. Wen Hai's ancestors had similar feuds, concubines driven to suicide, their graves desecrated during land developments. Seeking closure, they excavated the old burial site beneath the estate. Workers uncovered relics, jade amulets, decayed scrolls detailing curses spanning generations. A particularly gruesome find, a skeleton with bound wrists, identified as a long-forgotten concubine from the Qing dynasty, mirroring Lan's fate. Old Wang, summoned once more, declared this the root. Disturbed graves fueling the cycle. A grand reburial ceremony ensued, inviting monks from distant temples. Chants filled the air as bones were interred with honors, offerings piled high. During the rite, a spectral procession appeared. Ethereal women in white, led by Lan, nodding approval before vanishing into mist. The family felt a weight lift, the house brightening as if cleansed. But true horror lingers. Ming, now 10, began drawing pictures, grotesque figures of women fighting, bloodied and spectral. Teachers dismissed it as imagination, but Mei Fang recognized Lan's likeness. One evening, Ming spoke in a voice not his own. The debt is paid, but watch the shadows. Mei Fang fainted, awakening to find the boy normal, claiming no memory. Wen Hai passed peacefully soon after, his will ensuring equity. Mei Fang managed the empire, but solitude bred fear. She heard footsteps again, not aggressive but watchful. Village folklore evolved. The Li ghost protected the innocent, punishing the greedy. Tourists flocked to the haunted river, boosting economy ironically. In her final years, Mei Fang wrote a memoir confessing all, hoping to break the curse. But on her deathbed, surrounded by family, she saw Lan at the foot, smiling sadly. "Sister, where even now?" Mei Fang closed her eyes, wondering if death would reunite them in torment or peace. The estate stands today, a museum of sorts where visitors report chills and whispers. The river flows eternally, carrying echoes of old grudges. In Shinfa, progress masks the past, but beneath, spirits wait for the next fracture in harmony.